Hello and welcome. I am so glad you're here. Today, we're going to share a story that I think everyone knows, but it's one that's always worth hearing again. It's a tale of struggle, of searching, and in the end, of a truly beautiful transformation. So let's get cozy and dive into the world of the ugly duckling.
But before we begin, I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever had that feeling? The one where you're on the outside looking in, that feeling of just being different? It's such a powerful human experience, and it is right at the very heart of the journey we're about to take together. All right, so our story starts where many stories do, in a world that seems just about perfect. But right from the very first moment, you can feel it. There are these little hints that one new life is going to have a much, much harder path. Once upon a time, deep in the countryside, summer was absolutely in full bloom. Just picture it, golden fields stretching out as far as you can see, the sweet smell of freshly stacked hay, and these quiet, peaceful canals just weaving through the landscape. It was a perfect picture of tranquility. And right there, tucked away among some tall, leafy plants, a mother duck was sitting on her nest. She had been waiting so patiently for what felt like forever, just dreaming of the day her little ones would finally hatch. And at last, the big moment arrived. The eggs started to wiggle and crack, and one by one, these tiny little heads poked out. Cheep, cheep, they chirped, getting their very first look at the big, wide world. But one egg, the largest of them all, just sat there, stubbornly silent. Well, after a little more waiting, that last egg finally did crack open. But when the chick tumbled out, his mother's first words weren't words of joy. Oh no, they were words of shock. And with that single cutting remark, our little hero's lonely journey began. And what a lonely journey it would be. I mean, he was born into a world that, from his very first breath, judged him just for how he looked. His entire life became this desperate search for the one thing he wanted more than anything, a place to belong. You see, when the mother duck took her new family into the noisy duck yard, the rejection was just immediate and so cruel. His fluffy yellow brothers and sisters were admired, but our big gray duckling, he was pecked and pushed and laughed at. He was so unhappy. He felt like he had nowhere to go. So, unable to take it anymore, he ran away. He fled to a huge marsh, really hoping he might find some acceptance among the wild ducks there. But there was no escape from the cruelty. Their judgment was just as quick and just as harsh. They just laughed at him. Desperate for some shelter, he stumbled upon a small cottage. But here, he faced a whole new kind of judgment. This time, it wasn't about his looks, but about what he was good for. The cat and hen who lived there only cared about what he could do. He couldn't purr like the cat, he couldn't lay eggs like the hen, so in their eyes, he was useless. His search had to continue. So he was all alone again, and as the world outside grew colder, so did his hope. The warmth of summer felt like a distant memory. The air grew sharp, the leaves fell, and the poor duckling had absolutely no shelter from the winter that was coming. And this is such an important moment. One evening, he looked up and saw a flock of magnificent white birds flying high overhead. They were beautiful, elegant swans. And as he watched them, a deep wish formed in his heart. He didn't know why, but he just felt connected to them. But of course, that wish just felt like an impossible dream. The winter got harsher and harsher, and he had to peck at the ice just to get a tiny sip of water. Finally, one night, completely exhausted and frozen, he just collapsed on the ice. It really seemed like his journey was at its tragic end. But it wasn't the end. You know why? Because after the harshest winter comes the beautiful renewal of spring. This is the turning point where everything starts to change, not just the world around him, but something deep inside our hero too. Because miraculously, he survived. A kind farmer found him frozen and took him home. But the farmer's children were just too noisy and chaotic, and he got scared and escaped back to the marsh. He hid there among the reeds, somehow enduring the rest of that long winter, until at last, the warmth of the sun returned. And with the warmth of that spring sun came this incredible transformation. He felt a new power inside him he'd never felt before. He spread his wings, and they weren't small and weak anymore. They were big and powerful, and he took to the air, flying higher than he had ever dreamed. He soared over the landscape until he saw them again,
those 3 beautiful swans swimming on the water below. He flew down to meet them, his heart just pounding with fear, getting ready for that familiar sting of ridicule. But as he landed and looked down into the clear water, he saw his own reflection. And in that one single stunning moment, everything made sense. The reflection staring back at him wasn't a big, gray, awkward bird. He had never been an ugly duckling. He was, and had always been, a magnificent swan. The other swans swam right up to him, not with scorn, but with this graceful acceptance. "Come with us," they seemed to say. And for the very first time in his entire life, he wasn't being judged or pushed away. He was home.
So, what do we take away from this incredible journey? From that lonely nest all the way to a flock of swans, what does this story really truly teach us about belonging?
Well, I think the ultimate lesson is this. Being different isn't a flaw. It might just mean you've been trying to fit in with the wrong crowd. True worth isn't about changing who you are to be accepted. It's about having the courage to grow into the person you were always meant to be.
And that leaves us with one last question. It's the same question our young swan finally answered after his long, hard journey. What about you? Where is the place, and who are the people that let you be your truest, most wonderful